Welcome, marketing mavens, to another episode of the Marketing Science Lab podcast. I'm Alex, and today we're diving deep into a topic that's been buzzing in boardrooms and brainstorming product sessions everywhere.
And I'm Sophie. Get ready to have your minds blown because we're about to challenge everything you thought you knew about customer experience.
That's right, we're tackling the holy grail of modern marketing, the pursuit of frictionless customer experiences. But hold on to your hats, folks, because a groundbreaking study in psychology marketing is turning this concept on its head.
Oh, I love a good plot twist. So what's the scoop?
Well, it turns out that friction in customer experiences isn't always the villain we've made out to be. In fact, sometimes it might just be the secret sauce to creating memorable, valuable experiences for our customers.
Wait, what? Are you telling me all those hours I've spent trying to make everything smoother than a freshly waxed floor have been for nothing?
Not exactly, but it's definitely time to rethink our approach. The study by Padigar Lee and Manjunath introduces a fascinating framework for understanding different types of friction in the customer journey.
All right, I'm intrigued. Let's break it down for our listeners. What are these different types of friction?
Great question. The researchers identified 4 distinct types of friction: frustrating, constructive, rewarding, and preference-based.
Oh, it's like a friction flavor wheel. Haha. Sorry, couldn't resist. But seriously, how do these types differ?
Well, if we're going with flavor analogies, frustrating friction would be like biting into a lemon we're expecting chocolate. It's low value and low desirability for customers.
Ugh, yeah, we definitely want to avoid that. What about the others?
Constructive friction is more like eating your vegetables. It's not always enjoyable, but it's valuable. Yeah, think security checks for large purchases or setting up complex software.
Ah, I see. So it's the good for you kind of friction. And rewarding friction?
That's the sweet spot, high value and high desirability. It's like baking your own cake. There's effort involved, but the end result is incredibly satisfying.
Oh, I love that. It reminds me of the IKEA effect. You know, how people value furniture more when they've assembled it themselves?
Exactly. That's a perfect example of rewarding friction. And finally, we have preference-based friction, which is low value but high desirability. It's like browsing through a dessert menu when you're already full.
I feel personally attacked by that analogy, but I get it. It's enjoyable but not essential to the core experience.
Precisely. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The study found that many companies are obsessively trying to eliminate all types of friction without considering whether some of that friction might actually be beneficial.
Oh wow, talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So how can marketers use this knowledge to improve their customer experiences?
Great question. The key is to analyze each touchpoint in your customer journey and identify what type of friction it represents. Then you can make informed decisions about what to keep, what to enhance, and what to eliminate.
That makes sense, but I can already hear some of our listeners thinking, isn't this just complicating things? Shouldn't we aim for simplicity?
It's a valid concern, but here's the thing: simplicity doesn't always equal value. Sometimes a little complexity can make an experience more meaningful or memorable.
Ah, I see. I'm reminded of a quote I once heard. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Sounds like that applies here too.
Absolutely. It's about finding the right balance. And speaking of balance, the study also emphasizes the importance of considering customer heterogeneity.
Oh, fancy word alert. Translation for our listeners?
Right? Sorry about that. Basically, it means recognizing that different customers have different preferences and tolerances for friction. Some might love the challenge of assembling furniture, while others would rather pay extra for a white glove service.
Ah, got it. So it's about offering options and letting customers choose their own adventure, so to speak.
Exactly. And this is where things get really exciting for us as marketers. By strategically incorporating different types of friction, we can create more personalized, engaging experiences that cater to diverse customer preferences.
I love it. It's like we're shifting from a one-size-fits-all approach to a choose-your-own friction model. But how do we know when we've hit that sweet spot of optimal friction?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The study suggests that there's an inverted U-shaped relationship between effort and customer experience for good friction. Too little effort can make an experience forgettable, while too much can lead to frustration.
So it's like Goldilocks, but for customer experience. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right.
That's a surprisingly apt analogy. And it gets even more interesting when you consider how perceptions of friction can change over time, for example, due to technological advancements or shifting consumer expectations.
Oh, that's a great point. I mean, remember when ordering food online seemed like a novelty? Now it's so commonplace that even a slightly clunky app interface feels frustrating.
Exactly, which is why it's crucial for marketers to continually monitor and adapt their friction strategy. What works today might not work tomorrow.
This is all fascinating stuff, but I can't help wondering, are there any potential downsides to this approach? I mean, couldn't some companies use this as an excuse to not improve their customer experience?
That's a valid concern, and it's something the researchers address. They emphasize that this isn't a free pass to make things needlessly complicated. The goal is still to create value for the customer. It's just about recognizing that sometimes that value comes from the journey, not just the destination.
Ah, I see. So it's less about adding random obstacles and more about crafting meaningful experiences?
Precisely. And this ties into another important point from this study, the role of friction in building trust and transparency, especially when it comes to data privacy and financial decisions.
Oh, that's huge, especially with all the AI and automation happening in customer journeys these days. Sometimes a little friction can make customers feel more in control, right?
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between efficiency and meaningful engagement. And speaking of engagement, we're almost out of time. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Well, I think the big takeaway here is that it's time for us to shift our thinking from zero friction to optimal friction. We need to be more nuanced in our approach to customer experience design.
So, marketing maestros out there, here's your challenge. Take a fresh look at your customer journey. Where can you add a dash of rewarding friction? How can you use constructive friction to build trust? Most importantly, how can you offer options that cater to different friction preferences?
And remember, sometimes the most memorable experiences come with a little resistance. After all, diamonds are formed under pressure.
And on that sparkling note, we'll wrap up today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Marketing Science Lab podcast. If you enjoyed this friction-filled discussion, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review.
And hey, why not create a little rewarding friction for yourself? Share this episode with a colleague and debate which type of friction your company's customer experience represents. Trust us, it's a conversation starter.
Until next time, keep experimenting, stay curious, and remember, not all friction is created equal.